This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Monday, November 21st, 2005, and this is episode number 26 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm your host, Matt Hochberg from mgmstudios.org. Our panel today includes the co-author of the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World, which can be found online at www.touringplans.com, Len Testa. Welcome, Len.
Howdy-ho, Matt.
How are you, Len?
I am well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. And ladies and gentlemen, we also have Mike Scopa, who's a columnist at mouseplanet.com. Welcome, Mike.
What up, Matt?
Not much, dude. And Steve.
This is why the news has standardized greetings. But go ahead.
Yeah. And Steve Seifert, better known as the Tiki Man, is here as well, and his website can be found online at www.tikiman2001.net. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. Well, today, since we've got Steve on the show, we're talking all about Disney's Polynesian Resort, which is located on the shores of Bay Lake on the monorail track between Disney's Grand Floridian Hotel and Disney's Contemporary Hotel. Now, Steve, what got you so interested in just the Polynesian Resort?
Well, actually, I have an interest in every resort that's there. I think the reason I got so started on creating the webpage was the first time I wanted to stay there on my own, kind of the first trip to Walt Disney World without my parents. I was looking for information about the resort. I like the theme because I've always been into Polynesian culture and history of the islands in the Pacific. And I thought, well, we were debating on going to Hawaii or Disney World. Let's kind of combine the two. And so I started looking for information, brochures, photographs, anything. And I could never find anything out there. A couple of 2 or 3 pictures in the brochure at AAA or something like that. But there was never anything I could really find, and the Internet wasn't real big then. So I think my interest started to grow, and I started adding information, and then other people seemed to come out of the woodwork and were interested in finding out more, and kind of grew into what it is today.
Great. And how many times have you been there?
Oh, geez. About 10 times, I guess.
Hey, that's great.
Dang.
And then you started the website. When did you start that?
I started, well, like I said, it kind of started with just some photographs of a trip, and then people would kind of ask me more about the resort, would email me. And the more information they wanted, the more it started to grow. This was back in like '96, just about the time they started changing over the rooms, and a lot of people were asking about what the rooms at that time were changing to look like, and I had some photographs of it. And then probably 2001, like with the name of the website, TikiMan 2001, when I started the Homestead site, because it started to grow, I kind of had to get away from a free site and get into one where I was paying for the bandwidth and could have more pages and email addresses and everything. It really started to grow because it just got so popular. I was kind of inundated by all the emails and questions and people that were interested in it. I don't think I ever expected it to turn into what it did.
That's great. Now, for our listeners who might not be as familiar with the Polynesian Resort as you, Steve, which is pretty much anyone who's listening to this,
I don't know about that.
What are some must-dos and sees at the Poly?
I think one thing that people don't do, and I found that I didn't even do the first couple of trips that I went there, is I never really walked around the grounds. I kind of went from the lobby to wherever my room was, and of course the pool, and sometimes go to the boat dock and rent the little the boats or the patio boats and go out on the lake. But I never really walked around to all the different areas, and each year I'd try an area, I'd walk around and take a look at something else, and I was amazed at what I would find around the next corner. And I think more people should take just like part of a day and walk around and see what there is and kind of the hidden treasures and things around the Polynesian.
Speaking of walking around the Poly, Steve, the last time I was there, last couple trips, there's some really huge gardenia bushes. Is the landscaping at the Polynesian something you would consider a plus, or is it just like every other Disney resort?
No, actually, a lot of the plants that are there, I don't think you'll find at other Disney resorts. I know, and quite a few of them are actually original from when the resort was first created. I don't know all of them, and I know a lot of them were gutted when they redid the pool area when they took out the center. But there's a lot of plants that you can find there that I've only seen when I've gone to trips to Hawaii. And of course, they're going to have, birds of paradise are kind of throughout all the different resorts because it's a tropical area and palm trees and things like that. And hibiscus you find even in the park. But there's like kukui nut trees and heliconias and things like that I just don't find in a lot of places. And I don't think most people will even recognize it. It could be right outside their room. They wouldn't know what kind of plant it is, but it's somewhat unique to that resort. Maybe some of the other resorts have them somewhere hidden, but I myself have never seen some of the plants at any of the other resorts.
Steve, speaking of the other resorts, which other resorts have you stayed at?
I've stayed at the Animal Kingdom Lodge. I've stayed at the Yacht Club. A friend of mine was staying at the Grand Floridian one time, and I went over there and we checked it out and walked around. Actually, I've tried to walk around every resort. Spent a lot of time at the Wilderness Lodge to eat, things like that. But the only other place I've been is, and it was a long time ago, and I think it was the Caribbean Beach Resort. But it was only for a few days, and then we switched over to the Polynesian, actually. And that was back with my parents.
When you have stayed at the Polynesian, have you ever stayed at the concierge level?
Yeah, actually, I had considered trying the concierge level back in the mid to late 80s and never really thought it was, the cost was justified. And we had gone there and been upgraded to the concierge level in 2000 due to overbooking for Lagoon View rooms. The ones that were left were in the concierge level, so they bumped us up into there. And so it was kind of a nice treat, and we tried it out and somewhat get hooked on it once you've tried it. It's not, you don't really get your money's worth for it, but it's really kind of a nice touch. It's kind of like, I kind of like to compare it to flying first class or coach. First class, obviously, the extra snacks and things you get aren't really justifying the cost, double or triple the ticket price, but it's kind of a nice perk to, in that case, your flight, and in concierge case, it's your stay at the Polynesian.
Now, have you stayed at other concierge levels at other resorts?
Yeah, we actually did the concierge level at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, and I found it pretty comparable. And I knew a lot, at that time, the lodge was new, and some of the staff had even gone from the Polynesian to the Animal Kingdom Lodge at the time.
So which of the two is the better concierge level?
I think I actually enjoyed the food selection at the Animal Kingdom Lodge a little bit better. I think it was something different too than what I was used to at the Polynesian. But I liked the way, I didn't feel you had much other benefit. Like our room, being it was a one-bedroom suite, but the way at the end of one of those trails. So location, it was a great room. It was big, great view, but location-wise, it wasn't like in the case of when you have concierge at the Polynesian. I think one of the benefits is that that building is kind of in a prime location, and everything's right there. The lounge is very close. The concierge desk is very close. At the Animal Kingdom, I kind of felt, we had a long walk to get to the lounge or to get in, sit down with the concierge at the desk.
Yeah, I've actually stayed concierge both at the Animal Kingdom and at the Polynesian, and you're right. I mean, at the time I stayed Polynesian, Steve, I got Lagoon View, so I was able to literally sit on the balcony and watch wishes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, which is just fantastic. I mean, I love the animal. I do like the food a bit better at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, but it's a negligible difference.
Yeah. Right.
So let me ask you this question, since we're talking about rooms and views. What are some of the best buildings for? Think about in terms of views, and then maybe in terms of quietness. What are the best rooms or the best buildings at the Poly?
Well, it's kind of funny that you mentioned quiet, because one of the things I read a lot, and it's hard to take from what you read online, because it's in some cases it's a small cross section of everybody that visits the place. But I hear a lot about how it gets congested in certain areas, or it's noisy, or there's a lot of traffic. And I've been different times of the year, and I've even stayed at the resort like entire days, so I've seen it from like morning to night, and I've never really seen a lot of congestion anywhere other than maybe around dinner time in the lobby. But and then of course the longhouses around the pool decks, Sumo and Niue, get a little traffic, people going to the pool. But even along the beach, the path along the beach, I never see a lot of people unless it's around fireworks time, and even then it's not congested, unless it's 4th of July, of course. But view-wise, Obviously, the quietest is got to be Tahiti because it's kind of out towards the transportation and ticket center. There's not a lot of traffic. There's no path between the rooms and the beach like there is in Hawaii. And it's probably my best pick for lagoon views that are non-concierge. Hawaii, I think, would be obviously has great views on both sides. Maybe some people don't consider the garden view in Hawaii the best because it's kind of looking towards the quiet pool and some paths. Because there are actually garden views, can be anything from a marina view, a pool view, sometimes looking towards the beach like the west side of Fiji. And even in Tokelau, there's quite a few rooms on the side that faces Hawaii that if you look off to the side, you can see the castle and fireworks. So a lot of people see that as a big bonus because they're paying garden view prices and still getting, somewhat of a lagoon view and being able to see the fireworks from a lot of those patios and balconies. But quietness, I think, like I said, there's so many areas that there's not that many people walking around the past the Polynesian. That's why one time I actually took a videotape of the whole entire grounds during different times of the day to send to people that had never been there and they wanted to know what it was like. And sometimes you just can't tell what it's like until you kind of hear what it, that it's not noisy and the Hawaiian music playing in the background and see it for yourself. Sometimes, live action is obviously better than just photographs on a webpage.
It's a great point, Steve. I got to ask you to talk maybe a little bit about the dining options at the Polynesian Resort because they have some great places that you can eat there. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about them and what your favorites are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, even times when I've stayed at other resorts, even this past August when I went out and was at the Animal Kingdom, we actually went over to go to Kona Cafe, which is probably one of my favorite. I think not only does it have, there's certain meals that are kind of consistent since it's been around, that they don't change. And, of course, everyone loves the Tonga toast in the morning. But I know I can always go there and find at least one thing that I've had before and I really like. But the other thing is they do kind of change up the menu a little bit. And so I really enjoy going to see what's new. And last time I tried something that was new, and it's unbelievable. It's not a real, expensive. It's not the cheapest place to eat, but it's not the most expensive. And I like the atmosphere. It's kind of the open air, looking into the atrium, and the food's good, and the service has always been good.
They still do Steve, they still do a Noodle Bowl there?
Yeah, actually they do. I guess somebody told me the other day that they changed the name of it. But they said it's the same as what I described on my webpage in the menus. But that's got to be one of the hardest menus to keep updated on my site because it seems to change. Something will change about it almost all the time. I'll come home with a menu, and by the time I get home to post it, somebody says, "Oh yeah, well they added this or they added that." But the Noodle Bowl, which, like I said, it changed names. I don't remember what it's called now. Somebody said they just had, and they said it was great. But of course, the desserts are probably the biggest draw. Anyone who's had the desserts there, sometimes it's one of our stops. We'll come home late, just before Kona closes, and that'll be our first stop. We'll go up there for coffee and desserts, and it's kind of one of the best ways to finish off your day.
And Steve, now one of the not-so-secret things to do anymore from the Polynesian is watch wishes. But do you have any tips for watching wishes from there, assuming you're not staying in a lagoon view room?
You've got 3 different beaches. Of course, most people, especially if they're just visiting a resort to eat, only realize the beach that's just past the pool. But there's a beach over in front of Tahiti, the beach along Hawaii and the pool, and then there's another beach over near Luau Cove, which is probably the best viewing. And some people also like to go out onto the dock where the boat picks them up, and there's some seating and stuff out there. And that's a great location too. And of course, a lot of people like to view the fireworks from the Polynesian because it's usually timed, and I can't really answer this for all times of the year because I know sometimes the fireworks time changes, but it's usually timed to be right one after the other with the electric water pageant. So that's kind of nice. You can kind of be there for both, as opposed to at the other resorts, there's usually a big time gap in between the 2 shows.
just have enough time for you to talk a little bit about the renovations that are going on. You mentioned it earlier. These were back in the 80s, obviously, but there's still some renovations going on. Can you talk a little bit about that, Steve?
Yeah, a few years ago.
Steve, Steve, hey, before you do that, also talk about your your attempts to capture some of the Polynesian old furniture from eBay.
Oh, you mean the problems I had?
Well, about what you found, not necessarily the problems, but talk about the renovations and how you ended up with the whole scenario.
Ask that one more time.
Talk about let's talk about the renovations that are going on, and what the upgrades are supposed to be, and then if you got time, let's talk about what happened with your eBay experience.
Oh, yeah. A lot of the furniture, obviously, a lot of people know that the furniture is that's being taken out of the rooms is being offered up by Mouse Surplus, which is a great way to get some. The furniture, actually, a lot of it isn't really that old. A lot of people think it's been around since the resort first started, but it's a lot of it's been replaced probably in the last 5-6 years or so. But they obviously started off with a test room a few years ago, trying to come up with a new design, and used a lot of different carpet samples and colors and patterns and everything else. And I guess they finally decided on what they were going to use and started doing the new rooms just this last year. They started with the suites, which the suites are kind of a little bit different flavor than the standard and other concierge rooms will be. But they pretty much gutted the entire room. There's not much left. I think the only thing I could think of that's left is the ceiling fan and the bamboo rails, which they actually changed the color of. But they've got new carpeting, all new beds, which the beds are unbelievable. They actually had the beds in some of the older rooms already, and when we were there in August, they had the new bed in Hawaii even before the new room change, and it's probably the most comfortable bed I've ever been in. And they've got the new flat screen TVs, new shelving and colors and mirrors in the bathrooms, new bathroom fixtures in the shower curtains. And then I think the biggest improvement, which some people debate whether it's good or bad, is the area where the closet used to be is now an area with a larger refrigerator than the normal one you would get if you requested it. And then an area for the coffee maker, which a lot of people didn't like the coffee maker in the bathroom, so now it's got its own area. And, of course, that cuts into part of the closet, so you have a little less storage out there, but they now have a desk area with larger countertops and more storage out there. It's kind of a wash. Some people like some of the new stuff. Some people miss some of the old stuff. I think it's a big improvement, though, on the look and the feel and definitely the space in the room.
Great. Hey, Steve, when's your next trip to the Polynesian?
Well, we were going to do next year, and unfortunately, a friend of mine who actually works for Disney talked us into going back to Maui, so we're going to be doing that. But I'm hoping to maybe shoot out maybe for a small trip once a lot of the renovations are done and once Captain Cook's is done being moved and renovated, and just to take a look at the place, walk around, take notes, visit some friends that work out there. So I'm hoping sometime next year. Otherwise, I think the big family trip will be summer of 2007.
Great, and now of course, yeah, it'll be there sooner or later.
I wish I lived on the East Coast sometimes, but it's nice out here too.
Yep. And now Steve's site, of course, can be found online at www.tikiman2001.net. Thanks for being on the show, Steve.
Oh, thank you. It was good talking to you guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it for us today. This has been episode number 26 of Walt Disney World Today. Be sure to visit the Walt Disney World Today website at www.wdwtoday.com for the show notes. And you can also email us. That's just send us an email to questions@wdwtoday.com, and we'll try to answer them for you. As always, our new show's on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays of every week. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.